Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jana Vallabha Girivaranari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaranari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnu Swami Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotar Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakopina Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Ravilas's car is parked in the front. Do you want us to move it?
Oh, I moved it. Yeah, thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th Canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 20, Bali Maharaj surrenders the universe, Text 11. Yajanti Yagyam Kratubir Yam Adrita Bhavanta Amnaya Vidana kovidaha sa eva Vishnur varado stu va paro dasyami amushmai chitim ipsitam mune yajanti yagyam kratubiryam adrita pavant amnaya vidana kovidaha seva Vishnur varadostu vaparo dasyam yamushmai chitam ipsitam mune yajanti yagyam kratubiryam adrita pavanta amnaya vidana govidaha sa eva Vishnur varadostu vaparo dasyam yamushmai chitam ipsitam mune yajanti yagyam kratubiryam adita pavanta amnaya vidana kovidaha sa eva Vishnur varadostu vaparo dasyam yamushmai chitam ipsitam mune Any online chanters?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yajanti yagyam kratubiryam adritam Bhavanta amnaya vidana kovidaha Sa eva Vishnu varadostu vaparo Tasyam yamushma ikshitim ipsitam mune
All right, Hare Krishna. Yajanti, worship. Yagyam, who is the enjoyer of sacrifice? Kritubihi, by the different paraphernalia for sacrifice. Yam, unto the Supreme Person. Addaha, very respectfully. Bhavantaha, all of you. Amnaya Vidanako Vidaha, great saintly persons fully aware of the Vedic principles of performing sacrifice. Saha, that. Eva, indeed. Vishnu is Lord Viṣṇu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Padadaha, either he is prepared to give benedictions. Astu, he becomes va or padaha, comes as an enemy. Dasyami, I shall give. Amushmai, unto him, unto Lord Viṣṇu, Vamanadev. Chitim, the tract of land. Ipsitam, whatever he has desired. Mune, O great sage. Translation. O great sage, great saintly persons like you, being completely aware of the Vedic principles for performing ritualistic ceremonies and yagyas, worship Lord Viṣṇu in all circumstances. Therefore, whether that same Lord Viṣṇu has come here to give me all benedictions or to punish me as an enemy, I must carry out his order and give him the requested tract of land without hesitation. Purport. As stated by Lord Shiva, Aradhanam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam param tasmat paratadam devi tadiyanam samarchanam. Padmaprana. Although in the Vedas there are recommendations for worshipping many demigods, Lord Viṣṇu is the Supreme Person, and worship of Viṣṇu is the ultimate goal of life. The Vedic principles of the Varnashram institution are meant to organize society to prepare everyone to worship Lord Viṣṇu. Varnashrama charavata purushena parapuman Viṣṇu aradite panta nanyat tattoshakaranam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Viṣṇu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu Purana 389. One must ultimately worship Lord Viṣṇu, and for that purpose, the Varnashram system organizes society into Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. Bali Maharaj, having been perfectly educated in devotional service by his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, knew how things are to be done. He was never to be misguided by anyone, even by a person who happened to be his so-called spiritual master. This is the sign of full surrender. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Mari bi rake bi yo icha tohara nitya das pratituya adhikara. When one surrenders to Lord Viṣṇu, one must be prepared to abide by his orders in all circumstances. Whether he kills one or gives one protection. Period. Lord Viṣṇu must be worshipped in all circumstances. Om Ajnanatibrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmalitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kariti Vacharam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Deditadanam Hansha Kapadiri Bishta Kripa Sandabhe Vacha Padita Nam Bhavane Bhyo Vaishnave Vyanamana Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, translation again. O great sage, great saintly persons like you, being completely aware of the Vedic principles for performing ritualistic ceremonies and yajnas, worship Lord Viṣṇu in all circumstances. Therefore, whether that same Lord Viṣṇu has come here to give me all benedictions or to punish me as an enemy, I must carry out his order and give him the requested tract of land without hesitation. Bali Maharaj is coming to the right conclusion here, despite the bad advice of his so-called spiritual master, because his so-called spiritual master was encouraging him to not give to God, not give to Viṣṇu, not give to Krishna, just keep it all for himself. And not just for himself, but the main reason why his so-called spiritual master was wanting Bali Maharaj to not surrender was so he could be taken care of nicely. So Bali Maharaj here is coming to the right conclusion that yes, without hesitation, I must give. I must give in charity to this brahmachari, this Brahman Vamanadev. And he's going to end up giving everything in his possession. And at that time, that was a lot. That was the whole universe. Sometimes, therefore, he's the charya, or he's the example of Atma Nivedanam, full surrender. Sometimes people may hesitate to give a little money, or give a little time, or give some possessions, or whatever it may be. But Bali Maharaj, I mean, he just gave everything. It's amazing, actually. Without hesitation. And as Srila Prabhupada makes a point in the purport, it is by the education of Prahlad Maharaj, his grandfather. Bali Maharaj, having been perfectly educated in devotional service by his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, knew how things are to be done. He was never to be misguided by anyone, even by a person who happened to be a so-called spiritual master. So Bali Maharaj was perfectly educated by Prahlad Maharaj, his grandfather. And therefore we see the value of education. Srila Prabhupada designed the Hare Krishna movement to be an educational movement. It is a place where people are given an opportunity to hear so many classes, to read so many books, to discuss amongst each other and try to become educated in the science of Bhakti Yoga. And for the purpose of, you could say, edifying themselves, and for the purpose of uplifting the world, uplifting people. If we ourselves are not educated in the science of Bhakti Yoga, how are we to help others? By smiling at them? I mean, that's nice too. You could go on Harinam and smile at people, that's nice. I don't want to minimize kindness. So that's a form of help. But furthermore, how are we supposed to help them? By educating, by education. And as Srila Prabhupada would sometimes say, quip, is that the word? That, oh, my disciples, they think that these books are not for them. They think they're for distribution purposes only. And he would quip that, yes, when somebody says, what are in these books? I say, I don't know, my guru just told me to pass them out. So we should know. And as Srila Prabhupada would say, we should know like a lawyer knows the law books. We should know where things are. as far as possible. We don't want to corner people and do you know this? Do you know this? Where is this? That might be good, but everybody has a nature and this and that. But as far as possible, we should know. And therefore, if we know, not only will we be able to help others, in other words, not cheat them, but we ourselves will be less likely to be cheated. So many people give up Krishna consciousness because they do not have a proper understanding of it. They did not take proper advantage of the education that is being offered. So if we take advantage of it, then we will not be cheated. Just like here, Bali Maharaj, he could have done a really dumb thing and said, "No, I'm not given to you, Vamanadev. I'm going to follow my spiritual master, Jai Gurudev." And they could have went to hell together, or they could have rotted together in material existence. But he said, "No, I'm not following you," because he was educated. I'm surrendering to Bali Maharaj. But a lot of people in his shoes, in Bali Maharaj's shoes, they would say, "Oh, I'm just following you, Gurudev, blindly," without thinking. Blindly means without thinking. So, because of his education from his grandfather, he could understand, Prahlad Maharaj, he could understand that, no, this person, my so-called guru, he's a Maya. Okay, he taught me this, he taught me that, he taught me some things, but he's a Maya, and I'm not following him. And actually, I'm rejecting him, and I'm going to surrender to Vamanadev. So we could see the value of education, that we will be offered so many options in this world. Today we'll be offered things. Tomorrow, every day we'll be offered so many options. Do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And throughout our life, there'll be so many options. And if we're educated, if we're fixed in knowledge, and education doesn't just mean theoretical knowledge, it means realized knowledge. If we're fixed in knowledge, we will choose the right thing. And that actually determines the value of our life and our destiny. Just like Bali Maharaj, he could have chose the wrong thing. And then he would have been another example in the Bhagavatam of somebody who is a bad example for choosing the wrong thing. But he chose the right thing because he was fixed in knowledge. And then he went down in history, or he went up in history, as being a great acharya, a great pure devotee of the Lord who surrendered everything, who is the example of Atma Nivedanam, just by that decision, that one decision. So similarly, within our lives we'll have so many decisions. And based on those decisions, our reputation will be known throughout the world and throughout history, and maybe. So therefore, the being fixed in knowledge is extremely important. The Bhaktivedanta Book Trust has been working for the last 10 years, and someone may say, that's a long time to be working for 10 years on one project. What's up with these guys? But they've been working for the last 10 years on doing a word-by-word translation of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu with the commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So it's just coming out. It's about to come out. And it's a 5-volume work with 700 pages each volume. And it's a lot of work. I mean, just to just to learn Sanskrit, it says you have to, for about 10 years, study, just to learn. But then they're analyzing each, because like each word can actually be, each word can be fluffed out, or can be spoken on or written on, like for a whole paragraph or so. I mean, it's a lot going on in that work. Srila Prabhupada started to translate that book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, word by word. He did the first 20 verses with some commentary. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they're taking from his commentaries on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because many of those verses are in the Chaitanya Charitamrita than the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So that's coming out. So like that, we have opportunities to relish these different things, to get into these different things, and to learn the science of Bhakti Yoga. So Lord Shiva in the Padma Purana says, Aradhananam Sarvesham, that those, he's asked by his wife, Parvati, humble, right? She's asking her husband, please instruct me. She asked Shiva, who is the most worshipable? Lord, and what happened there? Shiva told Parvati that Viṣṇu is the most worshipable. But even higher than the worship of Viṣṇu is the worship of his devotees. Now, the other day I was making the point, it was from the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, that there's one early disciple of Srila Prabhupada who didn't really like this idea of worshiping devotees. He thought it was a terrible idea, a bad idea. And one time Prabhupada was giving a talk, and he walked into the door and he was crawling to Srila Prabhupada crying. And while Prabhupada, there's a bunch of people, and he was crying. And then he landed right here, and then he was on Prabhupada's lap, and then Prabhupada was going like this with his hair. And then Prabhupada said, what's wrong? And the man was crying, and he said, I don't want to approach God through anyone. I want to approach God directly. So in other words, he's saying, I don't want to go through you. I want to go to God directly. And then he got up and walked out of the door, left, and that was like his exit of out of Krishna consciousness. So this is one principle that people may not like in Krishna consciousness, that I have to worship Srila Prabhupada, or I have to worship devotees. I have to go through somebody to reach God. People like that they could just don't have anyone to answer to, and they just go directly. It seems more easy, it seems more fun, whatever. So this is one principle that people may not like to different degrees. There's hating it, and there's not liking it to different degrees. And in a sense, even if someone doesn't throw away the principle, they may minimize the principle. You say, hey, I still agree with it, kind of, but I'm minimizing it because I really don't understand it, or something's uncomfortable about it. I don't really like it so much. so let me minimize it. Not understanding means people do not understand the position of Srila Prabhupada and his worshipable nature. So on that basis, why should I worship? I don't understand. Okay. We would say, okay, therefore we should try to understand. That's important to try to understand Srila Prabhupada's position, and therefore worshiping him makes more sense. That's one thing. But another thing is that someone may just not like the principle in general, that, okay, he may be a worshipful personality, he may have so many good qualities, but still, I like the idea of a direct path, going directly to God. So let me minimize this. So people minimize it, means devotees minimize it. And they also may minimize the principle of the guru principle in general. The need to surrender to follow a guru. Why do people do that? Say, well, they could be the guru, right? They could be the guru. Srila Prabhupada said about one of his disciples, he made the comment in 77 that he's thinking, when will this old man die? So I could be guru. And those who, you know, I think most in the room here don't have a critical view of the zonal acharyas, but those who have a critical view of zonal acharyas, a particular person comes to mind for them, but it wasn't him, it was somebody else. In other words, he was very eager to be the guru himself. So he's thinking, when will this old man die? He didn't really like the principle of himself being a disciple, but he liked the principle of himself being a guru. So in this way, in so many different ways, the position of the guru is minimized, and therefore people wonder why they have a hard time in Krishna consciousness. People wonder why things are slow. People wonder why things are difficult, because they're minimizing a principle that is very important. Aradhananam sarvesham, that those things that are in relation to Viṣṇu are considered to be more worshipful than Viṣṇu himself, and specifically the devotees. And sometimes, like there, I saw somebody's shirt one time, it said, if my grandmother saw me, she would be, at this point, she'd be rolling over in her grave. In other words, she'd be really disturbed by me, by my activities. Recently, I saw a sticker of Jesus. It wasn't one of those kind of cartoonish stickers. It was, looked like a nice artistic sticker, but it was Jesus, and he had his hand on his head, and it said OMG, oh my God. So, oh my God, guys, I didn't say that, I didn't say that. So it's kind of like Prabhupada said, right? So sometimes we may wonder with religious leaders and founders and acharyas and different people like that are they like, oh my God, I didn't say that. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you minimizing this principle? And Srila Prabhupada, he makes a point in the purport that he quotes from the Viṣṇu Purana, gives the verse number 389 for those who want to look it up, that the Supreme Personality personality of Godhead, Lord Viṣṇu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yes, we all have our particular ashrams that we'll serve in. We all have our particular roles that we're serving, or the inclinations we have. But the idea is to, wherever we are, whatever ashram and whatever way we want to serve, the idea is to serve, to do something, to contribute. And of course, in this age of Kali Yuga, it is important that everyone is in a preaching spirit. Srila Prabhupada, even speaking about farms, Srila Prabhupada would relate it to preaching. He wouldn't just say, yes, let's take off to the farms and live a quiet life, peaceful, quiet life with plenty of burfis and sandesh from made from our cow's milk and whatever. I mean, he said that. I mean, and a lot more about farms, obviously. But his idea was that let's show the world. In other words, let's preach. It wasn't just, hey, let's go start a commune out there and have a good time, but let's preach by this. Very interesting. When he would talk about book distribution, of course, right, he'd say preaching means book distribution. That's clear. Harinam, chanting on the streets. But also when Srila Prabhupada would talk about deity worship, he would say, you decorate the deities beautifully, and the devotees are inspired, and people who come, especially in India. This was his tactic in India. The deity worship is very nice. People come and they're attracted, because naturally people are attracted to going to temples in India. So when he talked about deity worship, when he talked about prasadam distribution, what is that? Preaching. When he talked about keeping the temple clean, of course, again, there's the idea of doing it because it's good, but still, Srila Prabhupada related to preaching. He would relate everything, actually, to preaching, or to outreach, to trying to help others. So whatever we do, we should see it in that way. This is an opportunity for me to help others. This is an opportunity for me to do something good for others, to benefit others. And we should look for opportunities to do that. So this is our duty, really, our main duty as followers of Srila Prabhupada, to try to repay the debt we have for him. And therefore, we also have to be very careful that what we're doing makes sense, how we're communicating with people, for example. Recently, there was some kirtan in the lounge, and whatever. But there's a young man there from Italy, and I was talking to him after the lounge, and he said, "Yeah, I was a little surprised in that kirtan." He said, "You started chanting Hari Bo," and I was going, "Why are these guys? Is this like a joke or something? Like they're chanting Hari Bo?" You know what Hari Bo is, right? Hari Bo? Yeah, Hari Bo. Means, yeah, it's gummy bears. Because, this is like monks chanting Hare Krishna, the whole thing. And then they go into a Hari Bo, and then he was thinking, like, is this a joke? Like, what's up with these guys? It's like, imagine them, the dancing gummy bears or something, Later on, I explained to him that, well, Hari Bo means, this, and chant the names of the Lord, and so on. And I mean, that's one example. There's so many examples of, in our communication with others, how things may not be clear. And in our following the principles of Krishna consciousness, in our how we're trying to give Krishna consciousness to others, we want to fully depend on the mercy of Krishna. If Krishna wants to kill us, or Krishna wants to protect us, whatever it may be, our principle is to follow his instructions. And this is Bali Maharaj's conclusion. And yeah, if devotees try, Krishna will encourage them. Sometimes the idea of spreading Krishna consciousness can seem very discouraging. Like we went on Harinam last night in Ocean Beach, and yeah, to tell you the truth, I was, for a number of reasons, feeling discouraged yesterday. And then the prospect of going on Harinam with a few people also seemed a little discouraging. I was thinking, there's so many people there, and how is this going to be received? Not really sure. Sometimes I think that there's some nice reception just on the basis of Krishna trying to encourage us. Sometimes I feel like trying to encourage me. So we went out and we're chanting for about an hour. And yeah, some people were dancing, this and that. But one girl specifically, young girl, she really got into the kirtan. For at least about 10 minutes, she was dancing with her, dancing, having a good time. And she was, sane and sober and all of that, going off to college soon, going up to Berkeley. But her name was Maya. So even Maya dances out on Harinam. All right, any questions or comments? Yes, Dujamani. But Srila Prabhupada also named one of his disciples Maya. It could mean... Yes.
I have two questions, Prabhu. First is, you spoke about worship of the devotees, and you gave an example of Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes people don't accept Prabhupada being worshipable. They want to have direct communication. It's one example that people might not accept an authority such as Srila Prabhupada. But how do we see also worshipping devotees? Because it's not just serving them; it's worshiping them. You know, we understand serving devotees. You know, during the morning program, we can give them a mat, or you can serve prasadam to them. But how do we understand worship of the devotees, especially those who are next to us? You know, living in a room next to us or something like that.
Well, they're not going to let you offer them arti. So, I mean, they shouldn't let you do that. So, you could do it while they're sleeping, offer them arti while they're sleeping. I mean, you have personalities like you have, I mean, things are different than they were in Krishna's time. For example, any Brahmin who would come. I mean, I don't see us doing that with Brahmins who come, like any Brahmin. It's like, but Sudama Brahmin came, and Krishna says, okay, he's a Brahmin, okay, sit down, and we're gonna wash your feet, and we're going to offer you so many things, and it's a whole ceremony going on. And it's not like it was like once a year Vyasa Puja or something. It was like every time a Brahmin would come, that would be the reception. So, that was going on there. Now we don't really see that here nowadays, and I think a lot of people would also be uncomfortable with that. And due to cultural this, that, or whatever, I don't think people are going to do it anyways. But the principle of worship, or the principle of respect, the principle that has to be there. But like on the basis of different relationships, that it looks differently. Like with friends or something, there's more of a reciprocation in an informal way. If there was so much awe and reverence, that would mess up the friendship. doesn't really work. So in the brahmacharya ashram, it's like that. It's like a kind of brotherhood type of experience. It's supposed to be. God brothers, yes. And it's not so much like the awe and reverence principle. But we should be very respectful towards everyone and tolerant and humble and respectful and so on. And be willing to learn from others. That's a very important thing about worshiping devotees. It means we see them as our gurus, persons we could learn from. I myself feel that I could learn from anyone, actually. Anyone I speak to. I try to, actually. Not only that I can learn from them, I actually try to learn from others. Different things. So I think that's a good principle in terms of respecting devotees and seeing them in a good light. Any other ideas about? Yes. David?
Hare Krishna, Balaram Prabhu. Thank you for
Thank you.
enlightening class as always. Can you expand on the relationship between Gyan and Vigyan, or knowledge and realization? And specifically, how do we know that we've had a moment
Bhakti Vigyan?
How do we know we've had a moment of realization rather than it's just some sort of mental process? What are the signs that we've had genuine Vigyan or genuine realization rather than something that's more fixed at a speculative or theoretical level?
Yeah. Well, if we look at enthusiasm, for example, it's very easy to be enthusiastic in the beginning because everything's new. Prasadam's new, the deities are new, the devotees are new, everything's new. So it's very easy to be enthusiastic. But as time goes on, that enthusiasm is tested. So if we are advanced, if we have the proper this is one of the ways we could tell we have the proper understanding of Krishna consciousness, or that we have, if you want to say real enthusiasm, that it's sustainable, it continues, it becomes steady. So part of realizing the value of Krishna consciousness, for example, the importance of Krishna consciousness, is that we're able to sustain our enthusiasm. It becomes steady. Rather than we're enthusiastic 1 minute and then the next minute we're down in the dumps. So that's one example, at least in terms of enthusiasm. Is it realized enthusiasm or is it theoretical enthusiasm, in a sense? Yes.
So you said actively search out opportunities to repay the debt to the spiritual master. So we're repaying the same debt, right?
Yes.
But are we all in varying degrees of debt? Is there like
Well, however much you take, that much you're in debt. So
okay.
if you, yeah. I mean, it's about the proper understanding, really. If someone is, I mean, we cannot really, we won't feel the necessity of repaying the debt if we're not experiencing the benefits. So the more we experience the benefits, the more we will feel we need to repay the debt.
Thank you. Yeah, that pretty much clears that up. I was hoping for something. Yeah, you did. Yeah, answered very well for that one. I had another question. How can we see more clearly this dependence as like a positive thing, and like trying to replace our own independence, on ourselves? How do we learn to expect Krishna's mercy, and like how do we see that as a positive thing?
Well, Srila Prabhupada gives an example of a cat that you have the cat who catches the rat, and it's death. You know, that mouth is death for the rat, right? But for the kitten, it's the loving embrace of the mother. So again, it's a matter of understanding that it's not a terrible thing to be fully dependent on Krishna. It's our nature. And the more we could understand that, the more, yeah, that will be to our benefit. So yeah, it's a matter of understanding or realization.
So we put ourselves out there and take away the comfort of having this independence, this false independence, and we learn to rely on Krishna's mercy. So like, how can we strengthen ourselves in that process to become more, I guess, to have more faith that, you know, like we can take another step. Like, well, how does that work?
Book distribution's a good opportunity, because you're going out there, and who are you supposed to depend on? You're supposed to depend on Krishna, right? There's a bunch of it's like an ocean of non-devotees who hardly have any interest in Krishna consciousness. I mean, a lot of them. What is this world about? It's not about Krishna consciousness. Okay. So you go out and you just pray and you depend on Krishna to help you, spread his message. It's a good way.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay, Ramapati.
It's just a comment as in regard to the worshipping of the devotees. As you mentioned, the cultural differences here, but I still remember, like in the villages, like even if you're like, I still remember when I was like 12, 14, if you go to the villages, they would receive you in such a way, they'll wash your feet, you feel uncomfortable, but garland you, they throw flowers, even when you're eating is so hot, they don't even have fan in the villages, they'll fan you. Yes. So the cultural aspect is still there, like to greet the devotees, to worship them, but it's which is lacking in the Western culture now.
Yeah, and I think we should work on that personally. You know, sannyasi comes and maybe you forgot to save him some prasadam, maybe one person's there to greet him or something, or it's like a vast difference from what you see in India, so which I think is good principle. Okay, Jai, Granted Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
About education, you were also saying that you gave a few examples. You glorified education and gave a few examples. First example you spoke about is teaching or studying together, like in the form of discussion, like coming together and asking questions and things like that, and then studying on your own. And it seems like from my experience that the learning and education is really slow when you just doing these things. Would you suggest any other methods of education that could be beneficial and useful, and especially that are now used in ISKCON? Maybe
talking about like reading groups. Do you have reading
groups, small groups? Yeah. Also formally getting together besides the morning classes and studying Shastra.
Yeah, and people's enthusiasm. They get together and they kind of feed off each other's enthusiasm. So that's always good to have some group readings where there's discussion and so on. Mm-hmm. But there's people are different, so some people, they learn better different ways. So whatever works, pretty much. If you explore different ways of learning, and then whatever works for you.
Would you agree that, or what do you think about having just a morning class and studying books? Do you think that's enough for someone who is trying to aspire for education?
If they do it properly, I think it's enough.
Which also requires education.
Yeah. How to read the books. But yeah, classes and reading, I think that's enough. if they do it properly. You know, they're really serious about it, really sincere about it, definitely. And engaging the principles that they learn, you know.
And then in regards to what you said about worship of the devotees, how we develop intimate, or not our reverence, but intimate friendship, and then we learn from each other. How does that learning actually happen? Is that we come together and discuss Bhagavatam? Or
It could be from discussions. It could be by seeing their example. Yeah. Those are the two things, by communication and then by their example. You know, seeing them. You could gain inspiration from both of those. You could learn from seeing others, learn from, like I've seen people offer their obeisances, or I've seen people chant certain ways, and that it taught me a lot about obeisances and chanting. Then it taught me a lot, not necessarily verses, or not necessarily. Just seeing them taught me a lot. I didn't necessarily speak with them. I just saw them, and it taught me a lot. So both are there though, by communication, by seeing. So.